And I'll use an example. So let's say it was a $10 million project for 10 years. You'd be looking at an even payment of $1 million a year plus interest. What we could do is structure that $10 million over 10 years so that the payment in year 1 would be $3 million. The payment in year 2 would be $2.5 million. The payment in year 3 would be $2 million. The payment in year 4 would be $1.5 million. And we would, what we call is front-end load that debt service. Meaning in the first couple of years after you receive this increase in value, you make a higher contribution to principal and interest. And that way, as the years move on, if the values come down, you will not have as much debt service responsibility. So we're scaling those payments. And what that may do is that instead of an even 17-cent tax rate, in year 1 you may have a 22-cent rate. In year 2 you may have a 20-cent rate. In year 3 you may have an 18-cent rate. So you would have an average tax rate increase over 10 years of 17 cents. But you would use that to its advantage while your values are up. So we would front-end load that debt service and make those higher payments at the very beginning while values are up, on the off chance that values could possibly decrease after, say, year 8 or 10, but then your debt service number would be much lower to get things paid off. Yes, sir.
If you did the front-end loading the way you described it,
yes, sir.
And then let's say the values did not drop and say more or less steady, yes, then you would have the practical effect of paying the bond off sooner than you thought.
Most definitely. And I'll go back to the 17 cents. So we're talking about an even 17 tax cent increase over that time period. Typically, what happens is if values go up, your tax rates go down. If values go down, your tax rates go up. They're inverse. And so I think what he was asking is, if you set a 17-cent rate and you're at $350 million in value, if next year you go to $400 million, you would drop that tax rate down to say 15 cents or 14 cents because your values have gone up. Another option to take advantage of that money is to keep that same 17-cent rate, and any additional amount that the value goes up, those extra collections can go towards a reduction in principal, just like a home mortgage. If you've got extra money for the month, then you make a little extra on your mortgage payment. That could be done in the same way, is you would still maintain that same 17-cent tax increase, and as your values continue to climb, you use that additional money that's generated to pay the bond off early. So now we're talking about from a 20-year term, you could buy back year 20 and year 19 and year 18 as those things came through.
So there's flexibility, you're not really locked in.
Correct. You have options, especially with increasing values, you have options to be able to either pay your bond off more quickly or reduce your tax rate from the original amount that was needed. So if we were talking about a 17-cent overall increase for that term, then what we're saying is if your values go up $50 million between now and next year or the next year, you may be looking at an effective only a 14-cent increase. Or that extra 3 cents between 17 and 14 can be used to reduce principal. So we can keep you at a 17-cent increase and then just continue to reduce that bond payment and that bond amount outstanding over those years with that excess amount. So we can protect against decreasing values, but we can also take advantage of the increasing values to be more efficient with you guys as far as paying the debt off more quickly or lowering your tax rate as the values go up. So there are several options that the school board has, the district has to be financially sound with what they're doing. Can I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions about the financing, the tax impact, values, anything like that you could think of? Or the building itself. The building itself, the project. I know a lot of times people want to know what's the bottom line and what's it going to cost me, and I want to make sure that we get all of those questions answered. Yes, sir.
I've had several come to me and ask if they could buy the bonds locally. If we had local people interested, are these bonds going to be to where people could invest and purchase these bonds in order to, keep their stuff local also if they were interested?
Most definitely. I worked for John Benham at Wink Loving, which is kind of out by New Mexico. They had the same thing. I'm actually using them in Chillicothe's meeting. I'm actually using you guys, too, as a good example of a district who's experienced increase in value. Wink Loving had the same issue. Their value doubled over one summer. They went from $600 million to $1.2 billion in out around Wink Level. So they had the same question: is how do our local citizens and local banks, how do we participate in this bond sale? If this bond goes through, we'll sell bonds most likely on the public bond market through a public bond underwriter, just like all the other bonds are sold. What those people will do is give local priority. So what that means is they'll pick out, say, the 3 or 4 zip codes that fall inside the school district here, and they'll give priority in the bond sale to those folks. So all of those orders that come in for bonds that are from this area will get filled first. So if you live here locally or you live in the surrounding area and you want to participate in the bond sale, all we have to do is specify that at the time of sale that we want to give local priority, and that means all of your bond orders that come in from here will have priority. And the easiest way to do that is if you have a bank or a financial advisor for yourself that you work with, you can let them know about the bond sale. If not, we will provide information. I understand that there's talk of a local newspaper, so we can put that information in the local newspaper, or we can send that information home so that everybody that's involved understands that this is the day of the sale, and if you want to participate, this is the day you need to call in and make your order. But we will most definitely give local priority to anybody and everybody that wants to participate, and that's as much as you want to get. If you want to step up and buy all 8.7 million, you'll make some bond investors on the market unhappy, but you can definitely do that. So we don't want to exclude anybody that wants to participate, and that's how we can do that. So, yes, ma'am. Oh, just stretch it.
I have one.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you were talking about 17 cents across, but if we do it at a higher, who decides when the higher rate is? Is that through when we start in the fall, when we start doing the budgets of the different entities or anything, or
The
how do
rate.
you decide when you're going to be charging 22 cents this year and
Sure.
17 cents?
The rate is always determined and set by the school board every year, as it always is. What we would do is we would set up the schedule, the payback schedule, just like on a mortgage before the sale of bonds. So Mr. Gilmore and the board and everybody would get together and we'd say, okay, we want to front and load these things to make sure that if values drop, that we don't take a big hit. At that time, when that debt service schedule is set, it will be set to show, say, a $3.5 million or $2 million payment in the first year and on down the scale just like that. Those amounts annually will come with a certain tax rate that's required. So if you're looking at a $2 million payment instead of a $600,000 payment, then there will be a tax rate associated with $2 million. And so what it would be was, if we looked at a straight across the board 17 cents, however we break that up, if we put a bunch of principal in the front and a little bit in the back, it's still going to be an average of 17 cents. Because you're still going to average all those tax rates together, and over the term, you will pay an effective 17-cent increase. But at the time of the bond sale, we would be able to tell you that in year 1, this will be the tax rate. In year 2, this will be the tax rate a little bit lower. In year 3, the tax rate will come down to this. In year 4, and it will drop on down until by the end of the bond, you may only have a 3 or 4 cent tax increase to pay the last bond payment. But that average of all those tax rates that we've set will be about 17 cents. Yes, sir.
So we're voting on 8.7 million, not tax rate.
Correct.
All the
Correct.
talk about tax rate, but we're voting on 8.7 million.
Yes, sir. You are voting to approve the sale of $8.7 million worth of bonds to get you that exact project that's been shown to you there.
And
The
rest our local board.
Yes.
To make that happen.
Yes, and basically you are entrusting them to set a tax rate that is sufficient to pay that annual bond payment. And that INS rate, that's what we were talking about, is restricted to that. Those monies cannot be used for buses, they can't be used for operations, they can't be used to do anything but make bond payments. And that tax rate that we're talking about, that 17-cent INS rate, can only be set at the amount to pay debt service. Now, if the board wanted, let's say it's a 17-cent rate, if they wanted to set an 18-cent rate and take that extra cent worth of collections and contribute it towards principal, they could do something like that because all of that money is being used to pay the bond. And it would have to be something the community is okay with. If they set an 18-cent rate and the community went through the roof, then next year, prudently, they would set a 17-cent rate. But that's what we're saying, is those monies that are set on that INS side can only be used to pay bonds, and they can only be used towards that debt service. So whatever the rate is set, all of that money will go directly towards paying that principal and interest back.
Yeah.
Did I get you that one? Okay. Yes, sir.
Well, there's a meeting every year before we set the tax rate, a public meeting. Very few ever come, but that is the community's chance to come and put their input about, what the tax rate is. So it's not just us going in there and doing it. The public has an opportunity to be involved in that.
Let me kind of expand on one other thing. We mentioned the $8.7 million, and the question you just asked kind of triggered this thought process. I was asked at Hickman's at dinner a while ago, how much is this building costing per foot? I mean, how do we know how much this building is going to cost? Well, through years of designing school buildings, I've seen building costs really escalate over the last, say, 15 years. About 15 years ago, I designed the new high school in Merkel, Texas, which is about the same construction that we're talking here. It ran a whopping $50 a square foot. Now, today, we're estimating approximately $150 for this new building. Now, some of that is inflation. Building costs have gone up. A lot of them are new code mandates that we didn't have 15 years ago. Codes that make us do this, and codes that make us do that, and automatic light sensors in the classrooms that turn off and turn off by themselves. All things that are required by law to do. So we've seen building costs escalate in the last 50 years from about $50 a square foot to about $150 a square foot. Now, the buildings that we have been designing and bidding recently have been running somewhere in the neighborhood of $117 to $125 or $30 a square foot. So where does the $150 come from? Well, if you pass the bond issue in May, it would be probably 6 months or 7 months before we really get the thing underway. So we're kind of hedging that cost a little bit. So if we're lucky, the building may come in a little bit less than $150 a square foot. But here's the big elephant in the room. We've all heard about the Klein shale. And we've heard about Midland and Odessa and Big Spring and what construction costs are doing, and folks are going crazy. We have contractors now that are telling us we've lost our whole crew to the oil fields. And so we're not convinced that the construction costs are going to stay at $150 for a very long time. We're concerned they're going to continue to climb and go up and just continue to expand. And a year from now, this building could be $190 a square foot. We don't know that. But we do know what we're seeing in the Midland, Odessa, Snyder area, and folks tends to be wanting to be, migrating this way a little bit. So we've got it hedged a little bit about $150. We're hoping it's more like $125, but we will see. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
How long will it take to build it? I mean, I stepped out, I might have missed that.
Sure. We're estimating, and we have a representative from the district's construction management firm. Joe's put his hand up, Joe. Stand up. This is Joe. Okay. Say hi, Joe. You may want to expand on that, Joe, but I'm guessing 11, 12 months?
Our thinking is right now to have a new school in September of 14. When school starts in September 14, have the new school ready.
Where will the kids be at? Where will they go to classes during that time?
Well, the new building is behind in the playground of the existing elementary.
Okay.
And then we would demo everything in front, and that would be Steve's egress and the bus lines and everything would be on the front end.
Yeah, I'm going to show you.
We probably wouldn't be finished with the demo part, but we would have school up and running and all of that blocked off so we could demo. We estimate about 10 months to build.
Okay, I think this will answer your question right here. This shows the new facility right here. To get you oriented, you can see the high school down on the bottom left, the gymnasiums on the top, the existing junior high building there. And so we're going to demo the existing elementary school buildings, demolish those only after the new one is completed. And that area then becomes kind of a central campus court, parking for the new building, parking for the new gyms, etc., and really opens up a really nice campus. So there really should not be any problem when we don't have a place for the kids to go to school. So the new one's finished, they move in, the old ones come down. Good question. Okay, if there's no other questions, and John and I and Joe will stay here as long as you guys want to come up afterwards and ask questions. So Cliff, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you talk about the last slide, which is the election date and times. And I'll put that on the screen for you.
Okay, the early elections voting will start on Monday. It will be at the courthouse across here in the lobby or the meeting area. That will run from 8 to 4 each day, and it will go until May the 7th. So if you want to early vote, you can go over there. And then the election will be on May the 11th in the same place from 7 to 7 on that day, the 11th. So,
Will there be early voting?
yes, that will be starting next Monday. Now, next Monday, you can go early vote all the way up to the 7th. So, every day, from 8 to 4.
We do have signs. For any of you that would be willing to put a get out the vote sign in your yard, we've got them in the back seat of her pickup. So you can pick it up as you leave if you're interested.
We appreciate you coming. I hope we've been able to answer your questions. These guys have worked really hard. My school board has worked extremely hard putting this together. We want to be as transparent as we can. We want to tell you everything about this. We will answer any questions that you have. We do put it out there for the community to consider, and we appreciate you coming. Thank you.
Cliff, one more thing. I want to say this is that after this meeting and having sit here and listen to this, you are now the most fully educated people in the community about this project. So you've heard more about it and seen more about it than any other community members that haven't been to the board meetings or anything like that. So please feel free to go out to the community and talk to your neighbors and just let them know what's going on. We have another one of these meetings scheduled for May 7th, same place, same time. Please encourage your friends to just come and listen. We're not trying to sell anybody. Like Mr. Gilmore said, we're trying to be as transparent as we can and put out what is the project and what is it going to cost and what is its impact, and let you guys make an informed voting decision. So please encourage friends and neighbors to come to the meeting on the 7th and just listen and see what's going on, and obviously give your opinion and talk about the project if you'd like.
These brochures were sent to every registered voter in our school district. So everyone has the same information. We will be sending these home. This is just an information sheet. We're not asking you to vote yes or no. We're just telling you what the information is. This will be sent home with children on Friday. So you'll get this information in. Mr. Gilmore, just curious, over the last several years, the board, administration, and community have been struggling with gymnasium. We worked at a junior high building over many times. We've talked about it for a long time. How did y'all come up with finally settling on the elementary? That's a good question. What? I mean, for years, that's one. I think that's the biggest thing that we've struggled with is we have a lot of issues at the school district. We've done a lot of work in the junior high through our M&O. We've worked through that with our maintenance and operation money, and we went in and fixed that up. But we've done some things in the gymnasium. But that's why we put together a facilities committee. A committee made up of teachers and community members and those taxpayers, and let them look at all the needs that we had and prioritize those needs. I'm sure if we had a different committee over there, it might be a little different, but that's what that committee came up with as our most important need right now was the elementary. Not saying the others are not important. They are, but that's where we came up with this first need, and they presented it to the board as a recommendation, and that's where our board moved forward with that. But I think that goes through a lot of our mind is there's lots of needs in our community. So that's the process.
In the future, we're going to have to wait till this 20-year deal is over to start with another project, or is it possible to move on to another bond the next year or the next year?
I think a lot of that's going to have an impact on our values. I'll let John.
That's a great question, and that's, again, the thing that goes back to values. If in 2 years your values start to drop back down, it might not make sense to take on the junior high or the gym as a project. If over the next 3 or 4 years your values continue to increase because of oil and gas or whatever comes to this area, that does afford you that opportunity. So that 17 cents we were talking about, if your values keep going up, it drops to 14 to 13 to 10, and that's giving you extra room in there to pursue more projects. And that's the thing is, with increasing values, all things are possible. So if in 5 or 6 or 10 years you guys decided, okay, it's time to do a new gym, or it's time to look at the junior high facility, with increasing values, then this tax rate, this tax increase we've talked about for the elementary is going to shrink pretty rapidly. And yes, at that point, you could look at almost within the next 5 or 6 years or less than that, doing another bond to address another facility. But I think it would be prudent to kind of see what values do. We're not trying to overload you as a community. Like I said, we want to keep you 10 cents below the average area tax rate. We're not trying to overload you. You know, we want to start with what has been identified as the greatest need to pursue and kind of work from there. But I think definitely if your values keep going up, it's up to the board and the community, that group of citizens to determine, okay, what's the next need? Are we ready for it? And financially, does it make sense to go do it, both to the community and to the district? Yes, ma'am.
Having subbed and been at the elementary school for about 12 years, just to kind of understand why I think it's so important for the elementary school to be redone, is that I couldn't believe the access. And this was before Sandy Hook, this was before anything. I couldn't believe how I could go in and out without anyone seeing me. And in this day and age, I feel like our high school is fairly secure. But it's always been in my mind, any lunatic had access to our kids.
It's a big issue today.
And it's huge. And that's basically why I feel it's so important to
I think, like we said, we had a good group of people and community members that came together and looked at several studies, one done by the Association of School Boards, and I'm sure some more recommendations made by Steve and his group to kind of identify which campuses and facilities have the greatest needs. And I think the elementary won over. I think there's been some issues that, like Mr. Gilmore says, you guys have addressed out of that maintenance and operations budget. Again, commending them for being able to take that 99-cent budget and stretch it and make it work. But as far as a major project, this is what came up, and this INS rate and this bond election is most definitely the most cost-effective way for you guys as a community to pursue it. And I think that's what we wanted to at least get out to you, is this is conglomerately, we think, probably the best package to put together.
But the only money that's protected is what's in this INS. It's the 99 cents and below, that still goes to state.
Yes,
That's
just for your information, we, this year, as I told the board last meeting, it's an ever-changing projection, but this year, we have to send roughly $602,000 to $782,000 our local money to the state of Texas. Now, that doesn't change. We're still going to do that on that 99 cents. It'll continue to grow. As the values go, we will send more and more back to the state of Texas. The way they work to operate the poor school districts. That's how they kind of balance.
Finally find a way to change the funding.
So we'll continue doing that on our M&O side, Mr. Secretary. But if we want to keep our money, the money that you want to go into your school, it has to be on the M&O side. We cannot raise your taxes to $1.17. We would send 80% of it back to the state of Texas. So it would not be responsible on our part to ask that on the M&O side. We have to ask it on the bond side because it's protected.
Recapture is also called Robin Hood. You may have heard it called that before, and that's the way the state tries to equalize the wealth between property wealthy districts and property poor districts. It's not an effective system. It's not the best system, but that's what we come to expect in education from the state of Texas. So we're doing our best to work with it. But like Mr. Gilmore said, bond or no bond, you will continue to send that $600-some-odd thousand back to the state of Texas. If you want to do a project on your M&O side, you'll increase that rate and send even more back to the state of Texas. If you want to pursue a project and keep all your money here, the best way to do it is on that INS rate, that voter-approved bond rate that keeps all your dollars here. You're almost sending back an entire project to the state every year. You send back $600-something thousand.
There's some of the schools deep in the shell area or large city, and some of those notice we're sending this year $22 million back to the state. So they're in a situation they have to. If they need a facility, updates, they should do it. And it's slowly creeping this way because our values have they increased. It's just time to look at that as taxpayers.
That kind of money going out, the force systems ought to get to the point where they start big numbers.
That would be nice.
I was told that Jaden floats a small bond periodically in order to take it.
Big projects, not big projects.
Smaller bond.
Yes, I think they've done that at different times. They're looking at doing some different things in the future, but
In order to protect what.
for good communication purposes out to the community, if we had all our facilities updated and we were looking, that would be the way to do it, is continue to close small bonds, to continue updating your school on the INS side.
But they not making a brand new lately, haven't they?
Not lately, but I think they're working on some things now, so.
If it wasn't for Robin Hood, we wouldn't be asking.
Yeah, if we didn't have that, we could just do it ourselves. We wouldn't need anything. We just keep the money here.
The gentleman that was at the back that said he was the young girl that was in Florida 8 years ago, I was going to ask him to throw a few batons for us, but I see he's left the room. So he doesn't know we were on to.
Guys, any other questions? We'll be here as long as you want. Feel free to come up and ask us or just shout them out.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Well, that's kind of what I think.
So what is I understand?